Welcome everyone to John Ski Writes. I'm your host John Ski, and today we're back with our second book review on the channel, continuing from where we left off, and today we're talking about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So the start of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry is obviously living with the Dursleys again. He's back with them just for the summer holidays. Harry being told to basically stay upstairs in the bedroom, pretend he doesn't exist because his Uncle Vernon's got a busy and big and important deal, and someone's coming around who's hoping to sell loads of drills too. So Harry walks to his bedroom door and he finds he has company in his room, and he's introduced to Dobby the house elf. I said in the first book that Hagrid was my favourite character in the first book, and in the second book Dobby is definitely my favourite character. Dobby is fantastic, and he just turns up at Harry's house in Privet Drive to say, Harry, don't go back to Hogwarts, it isn't safe. Harry's not had any letters or contact from anyone from the summer, from his Wizarding World, and he just thought everyone had sort of left him alone. He was a bit upset and wanting to know why. And then it turns out that Dobby had been keeping all of his letters from him, hoping that if he thought no one liked him or cared about him, that he would not want to go back to Hogwarts and he'd be safer staying at home with the Dursleys. So they're making lots of racket in the room because Dobby's banging himself in a headlamp because he's not meant to say anything or say anything bad about his masters or tell Harry anything that's going on. So he has to punish himself when he does, and there's lots of racket being made. And Uncle Vernon comes running upstairs. He's not happy. He tells Harry that if there's any more, he'll really know what's for. So Dobby says that Harry has to promise not to go back to Hogwarts or he will do something bad. He says, no, Hogwarts is my home. So Dobby runs downstairs, his little legs, Harry chases after him, and the Dursleys are in the living room and they're having this meeting. He's really trying, obviously, to sell these drills to this guy and make lots of money in a big business deal. And Dobby makes this giant cake that Aunt Petunia has made, and Dobby makes it float and crashes it on the floor. Big bang, cake spatters everywhere. Dobby just goes and disappears. So Uncle Vernon snaps and he says, you're never going back to that bloody school with them bloody friends. So Harry cannot leave, so he puts bars on the windows, locks on the door, and Harry's stuck in there thinking he can't return and he's got no way of getting there. But don't worry, because Ron, who is his best friend and has obviously worried about him not being in contact over the summer, knowing he's living with the horrible Dursleys, has dutifully turned up to save the day, accompanied by Fred and George in a flying car. So they fly back to the Burrows where they sort of try to sneak in, but Mrs. Weasley comes out of the house and sees them on the lawn and is like, bed's emptied, no note, what is going on, I'm out of my mind. Obviously she's not mad at Harry, she's just glad that he's okay. But Ron and the two boys get sort of scorned with some bad looks and some tuts. And then at some point, Ginny comes down, embarrasses herself because she sees Harry Potter and sort of like freaks out, runs back upstairs. And then Arthur Weasley turns up and he asks him all these random questions. And one of my favourite quotes, which we said we'll get to later, I'm actually going to do now. My favourite quote in this book is actually from Arthur Weasley. And he asks Harry, exactly what is the function of a rubber duck? It's so daft, it's so simple, and I absolutely love it. Brilliant, there's so many. I think this is probably one of the best books for one-liners or comments like that, best quotes, is The Chamber of Secrets. It has so many that you could choose from. They go to Diagon Alley, and Harry feels a bit bad because the Weasleys have no money in their vault and they're very poor and they're scratching around all this secondhand stuff. And they end up in Flourish and Blotts where they meet the new Defence Against the Dark Arts teacher, Gilderoy Lockhart, who is this famous wizard who has got all these accolades and awards apparently and done all these amazing things. And he obviously grabs Harry and they get a photo together because me and you, Harry, steal the front page. And he gives Harry all of his books free, signed, I think, as well. So none of the lads are impressed by Gilderoy. They just think he's a bit of a fancy idiot. Yeah, all the women, Mrs. Weasley, Hermione, all that, they're all obsessed with him. They're like, oh, it's Gilderoy Lockhart. Oh, he's amazing. You get introduced to Lucius Malfoy, and again, Lucius Malfoy in this book and through the whole series is a great character. They get all their stuff and they have this little meeting with Draco at first. He comes in and he's like, oh, can't even go into a shop, can you? Famous Harry Potter. Can't even go into a shop without being noticed. And then Lucius comes in and tells him to, now, Draco, it's okay. And then he has an altercation with all the Weasleys. He grabs some books out of Ginny's little cauldron thing or whatever. She's got a little bag of books and that, and then he shoves them all back in, saying to Arthur Weasley, what's the point in being a disgrace to the name of wizard if you don't even get paid well for it? And Arthur responds with, me and you have a very different meaning of what disgraced wizard. So they go to the school, and they're at the platform, 9 3/4. Everyone goes through. Ron and Harry are last, and for some reason Ron and Harry can't get through the platform. They can't get through, it's closed. They think, oh no, what, Mum, they can't get back. Oh no, we should go and wait by the car because we're going to miss the train. Oh, it's 11 o'clock, oh, the train's gone. Oh no, let's go and wait by the flying magical car that's, got us to the train station. What are we talking about? We can just use, this is probably one of the worst ideas of all time, but it's also one of my favourite things in this book, to fly the magical car to Hogwarts. So to get in the car, the invisibility booster is faulty and doesn't work, so loads of muggles see them, which they get in trouble for when they get to the castle. But they fly up in the clouds, so they can't see the car as much, and they follow the train, they get to Hogwarts grounds, and then unfortunately they end up landing near a whomping willow tree that, well, whomps them a few times, smashes up the car a little bit, and then the car sort of manages to get away from it, ejects them out. The car runs off, not happy with the fact that they've landed next to one willow and it's been bashed and smashed about. It ejects all their belongings, and they go into the castle, and they get in trouble because muggles saw them and they've broken so many rules and blah blah, and if they do anything else wrong they'll be expelled. So the next day Harry learns what a howler is when Ron receives one from Mrs Weasley, saying that due to their stupidity, Arthur Weasley's dad is now facing an inquest at school, is now facing an inquest at work, and if he steps another toe out of line he'll be dragged straight back home. So after that, they try not to put a toe out of place. They behave themselves quite a lot. Nothing much really badly happens. Some pixies get loose in a class because Gilderoy is a very inept wizard, and he lets pixies loose, and he can't sort them out himself, so he asks the kids to do it as he runs out of the classroom at the end of the class. Nothing really bad happens, and then after a few lessons, we sort of get more into the term, and then Harry is doing his detention. And him and Ron get different detention. So Ron has to go and clean, which Mr Filch is in his element here. He gets Ron to go and clean and shine up all the silverware and stuff. And Ron, there's a falling out because Draco's dad has paid basically Draco's way onto the Quidditch Slytherin team, and he calls Hermione, actually there is something that happens, I missed it out, he calls Hermione a filthy little mudblood, which is like a really foul, nasty thing. It's almost like a swear word, one of the worst things you can say to someone who is muggle-born. It means dirty blood. And Ron tells him to eat slugs, and his wand's obviously broken from the Whomping Willow attack, and it fires back at him and he ends up spewing up slugs everywhere. Anyway, so he's signing autographs for Gilderoy Lockhart, for his fan mail, and him and Ron will both much rather swap and do each other's jobs, or each other's detention, sorry. And then Harry hears the voice. Attack, attack, kill, kill, attack. And Harry's like, did you hear that voice? And Professor Gilderoy just says to him, like, I don't hear no voice. What are you talking about? There's no voice. You must be, God, blimey, look at the time. Quick, get out, get out, get out. It's late, it's late, it's late. Telling Harry that all of the detentions won't be this much fun. Yeah, fun. So Harry chases after the voice, and he's running after this voice, and he comes across a big puddle of water on the floor outside the toilets, known later on as Moaning Myrtle's toilets, because she's flooded the toilets. And hanging above it is a cat, Mr Filch's cat, Mrs Norris. Only the cat has been, well, they think dead at first, but the cat has been petrified. Harry gets the blame for it. Mr Filch is not happy. He's like, you got my cat, I want some vengeance. Dumbledore pokes around the cat and says, it's not dead, it's petrified, we can cure her, we've got some mandrakes. He's still not happy. He wants Harry punished. And Snape then actually for once defends Harry and says, maybe it's simply, wrong place at the wrong time, maybe it's, not him. However, he wasn't at the feast. Why was he not at the feast? Or something like that. And it's always something like that. I never know exactly what's said, even though I've just read the book. Literally finished it. Pretend you didn't see that. Literally finished the book a couple of days ago, and I still can't remember exactly what the words are. It's all muddled up. A puddle of water gets mopped up by Filch, and then he starts standing guard, sort of roughly around about that place. There's also a nice message on the wall for everyone, which says, enemies of the air beware. And Draco shouts, enemies of the air beware? You'll be next, mudbloods. So automatically they all think that Draco, or Harry, Ron, Hermione automatically think that Draco is potentially the heir of Slytherin. Ron goes on later on to say that, you know, maybe his dad opened it before and he's opened it again now because they find out that it was opened before through a memory in a diary, which Harry finds in the toilets once they go and visit Moaning Myrtle. Moaning Myrtle's again flooded the toilets, and it's because someone threw a book through her, so Harry picks it up. It's a diary. Ron's very like, oh, don't touch that, but it's a diary, so they take it. But someone else gets attacked. Colin Creevey. Colin Creevey gets attacked. Actually, that's after. So first of all, we have the Quidditch. There's a match between Slytherin and Gryffindor, and it's Draco's debut, and they've all got these brand new brooms because, as Hermione said when he called her a mudblood, he called her that because Hermione said, well, at least they all got their way in on pure talent. No one had to buy their way onto the team for Gryffindor. And then there's the mudblood and the slugs and it's a whole circus of that. So they're having this match, and this time round, there's no one bewitching Harry's broom, but there's a rogue bludger. For Gryffindor, the Weasley twins, Fred and George, are the beaters, so they're sort of like hovering around Harry because they realise that this rogue bludger is just chasing Harry. So they get the captain's call for timeout, and they basically have a little team meeting in the timeout, and they say, Harry can't catch a snitch, or Harry says, I can't catch a snitch if you two are either side of me. So you have to risk it and dodge the bludger best I can, and you two protect the rest of the team because Slytherin are like 50, 60 points up at this point already. So Harry gets hit with the bludger and breaks his arm, but he catches it and he beats Draco, which is great. I think that's a nice little side story, like just continues to build the animosity and the hatred between them, continue their rivalry, which is a great little like subplot. They're on the floor at the end of it, and Fred and George Weasley wrestle the bludger to the floor, you know, the heroes saving Harry while Harry wins the match. And so the match ends, Harry comes down his broom, the bludger's still going after him, so Fred and George wrestle the bludger to the ground. They save the hero, so they're technically the heroes as well. So Gilroy Lockhart's one of the first people that gets there, and he wants them in the arm, and Harry's like, no, not him, and he's like, he doesn't know what he's saying because of the pain, he's just, you know, confused or dazed or whatever, so ignore that, and let me fix it anyway. And he gets his wand, and he points it at Harry's broken arm, and I can't think of what he says, Brachiomimundo, and Harry's arm then becomes all actively like rubber. They come to Madame Pomfrey in hospital wing, and she's like, should have been brought straight to me, I can mend bones in an instant. Harry's sort of panicking, like, oh, you can get my bones back, can't you? She goes, yes, but it'll be painful. And then he has to drink this horrible Skelly Grow potion, which is apparently horrendous. Skelly Grow is apparently meant to be this horrible foul thing. Spits it out, and she's like, well, it's not pumpkin juice. Everyone's made to leave, and while Harry's in the hospital wing, there's another attack. So at least Harry isn't getting the blame for this attack. Colin Creevey is attacked and taken to the hospital wing. He has a camera, so Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall carried him in, try and look through the camera to see if it's there, but it's not. The film was obviously all fizzled out, and there is no way of checking it. And McGonagall says, what does this mean, Dumbledore? And he's like, basically, Hogwarts screwed. Going on from there, Harry obviously gets his arm back and is in hospital still, and is visited again by Dobby, where it turns out that although they all thought that Malfoy set the bludger on Harry, because, you know, he was scared of Harry beating him or whatever, for instance, it turns out no, it wasn't Malfoy that set the bludger on Harry, and it was actually Dobby. And again, Dobby was doing it for his own safety, trying to scare him out of leaving Hogwarts, and again trying to save him. That's all he wants to do, is save Harry, but he won't give any information on what he's saving him from or why he's saving him. Just, I'm trying to save you, Harry. Dobby disappears, and that is actually when they bring Colin Creevey in. So Harry's in there, Dobby visits, and then Colin Creevey comes in. So Colin Creevey's not in there beforehand. I got them ran the wrong way, so switch them around, do what you have to do. The school decides to start a little dueling club, and Gilroy Lockhart, apparently it was his idea, and he decides he's going to do it, and Severus Snape's going to be his assistant. Gilderoy and Snape bow, and Snape basically knocks Gilderoy flying with Expelliarmus, knocks him, and he goes, it's very obvious what you were about to do, and if I had wanted to defend it, it would only be too easy, you know. So Snape decides to use Harry and Draco as the pairing, or Lockhart decides, or I think Snape suggests it, and Lockhart's like, brilliant idea, yes, just use Harry Potter in the middle, everyone can see him, yes, he's a celebrity like me. Which Harry again is just like, ugh. So Harry and Draco are battling, and it's to disarm only, and he fires his spell out first because he goes on 2 instead of going on 3 when you're meant to. He's a cheeky little git, and Malfoy sprays a snake out. Gilderoy tries to get rid of it, and he goes, and it goes flying up in the air, comes down, it's proper pierced, it's like turns towards Justin Finley, who is a kid that Harry meets briefly in the book earlier, a couple of times. They have herbology together with the Hufflepuffs. He's in a Hufflepuff, and he tells him that he was a Muggle born, and so that comes up a bit later on anyway. But well, the reason I'm saying that comes up a bit later on. And the snake's sort of going towards Finley, and he's freaking out. And before anyone else can do anything, Harry walks over to it and starts saying something to it, and telling it to like leave him alone. And then Justin gets all annoyed, what are you playing at? And runs out the room, and Harry's like, what are you going about? The snake's backing down, like, what? Really confused. And then Snape also looks really confused, as does everyone in the hall. They're all like, what the hell just happened? What was Harry doing? And Harry's really not got a clue what's going on. He's like, I told the snake not to Justin. Like, he's sitting there thinking to himself, like, I don't know what's going on. I've just saved Justin, haven't I? Like, why is everyone looking weird? Snape gets rid of the snake. That's the end of the club. Ron and Hermione rush Harry back up to the Gryffindor con room, don't say anything, pull him to one side, and they're like, you're a parcel mouth. And he's like, I'm a what now? And they explain to him that Salazar Slytherin was a parcel mouth, the only person who is meant to have been able to talk to snakes. And Harry's like, yeah, no, I spoke to one at a zoo once. I said it on my cousin Dudley, accidentally. And they're like, he's like, but it's a very common gift. I'm sure loads of people can do it. It's not a big issue. And then they're like, no, it is a big issue. The reason Salazar Slytherin's like symbol was a serpent was because he could talk to snakes. It's not a common gift. Now everyone's going to think you're his great-great-grandson, the heir of Slytherin, you know, the one that's doing the attacks. And he's like, but I'm not, am I? But Ron or Hermione pointed out that he lived, you know, thousands of years ago, and he could be. No one knows. Justin is the next person to be attacked. So of course, Harry going wandering through the corridors. I can't remember where he's going, but he's going through the corridors, and he finds Justin on the floor, and nearly headless Nick is also just sort of floating above him. And I think Filch catches him, like, oh, I love you now. But anyway, Harry's accused, and he gets taken to Dumbledore's office because McGonagall says, it's out of my hands this time, Potter, it's out of my hands. Takes him to Dumbledore's office. It's really cool. They got this gargoyle. Sherbet lemon is the password. So while he's in the office, in Dumbledore's office, he sees this bird, which is a phoenix. And then he sees a sorting hat, so he goes and talks to the sorting hat, and he says to the sorting hat, I'm just wondering, you know, you put me in Gryffindor, and, you know, and he goes, and the sorting hat says to him, puts it on his head, and the sorting hat says to him, I stand by what I said. And Harry's like, yes, come on, like, yes, I'm definitely meant to be in Gryffindor. And then the sorting hat says to him, I stand by what I said. You'd have been good in Slytherin. And he's like, no, you're wrong. Get off me. And then he turns around, and the bird bursts into flame and dies. And he's just thinking to himself before that, please don't let Dumbledore's bird die in my presence. That'll be the last thing I need after people thinking I'm attacking everyone. And the bird dies. And Dumbledore walks in, and he's like, Professor, I'm sorry, I didn't touch it. The bird just burst into flames. And then he's shocked when Dumbledore says, it's about time. Then Dumbledore explains to Harry that he is a phoenix, and when phoenix time to die, they burst into flame, and then they are reborn again from the ashes. And then he watches with Dumbledore as he's come back to life. And he goes, it's a shame you had to see him on a bad day or a burning day. You know, he's beautiful, really. Then after the bird, Hagrid comes running through the door and goes, Professor Dumbledore, I swear it wasn't Hagrid. I swear it to the Ministry of Magic myself. And Dumbledore's like, Hagrid, I do not suspect Harry attacked anyone. All right, okay then. I'll be going then. And Dumbledore says, but I must ask Harry, is there anything you want to tell me? No. There's no more attacks for a little while, and they find out by Harry writing in the diary and going into the diary that Hagrid was apparently expelled because he set a creature loose, and he was the one who opened the Chamber of Secrets. And they decide not to go and talk to Hagrid because they thought that's a bit, you know, dreary. But that if any more attacks do happen, then they'll obviously go and speak to Hagrid. It turns out Hagrid had a big spider. That was the monster. Tom Riddle, who is in the diary, he finds out and turns him in and it's basically because he doesn't want to go back to living with a Muggle orphanage because he's an orphan, and he wants to stay at the castle. So he's apparently the good boy. He's head boy. He's painted this picture of himself that he's an amazing kid, and only Dumbledore suspects. He's really close to the old headmaster. Dippet? I don't know. And so everyone believes that Hagrid had this monster, this big spider, his own hidden secrets, and it was an accident. So Hagrid gets expelled, but Dumbledore convinces the old headmaster to keep him on as the groundkeeper and train him up as gameskeeper. They actually find spiders crawling around everywhere now and then, and they saw spiders scuttling from one of the scenes, maybe two of the scenes. So they're a bit like, ooh, spiders, that's strange. Harry's about to go down for a Quidditch game, the last Quidditch game of the season, and Hermione goes, ooh, I've just thought of something. She rushes off, and Harry goes to get ready for the Quidditch match, and then they're about to start the Quidditch match. They all go up in the air, and Professor McGonagall comes out and says that the game has been cancelled, and everyone's a bit like, well, what do you mean the game's been cancelled? Like, why? And it turns out it's been a double attack, so 2 people have been attacked this time, whereas before it was just one person and a ghost, or a person or a cat. This time 2 people have actually been attacked, a double attack, and she said, I need to take you with me, Harry. Everyone has to go back to their dormitories now, blah, blah. Wood, the Quidditch captain for Gryffindor, tries to say, no, what's going on, like, we want to play. And McGonagall says, just go. Harry is about to go with McGonagall, and Ron comes running over from the crowd and is like, what's going on, like, and she actually lets Ron go with her, which Harry thinks is strange. But they don't get led to anyone's office. They actually go straight to the hospital wing, where they're led in, and she said, this might be a bit of a shock for you. And they're led in, and they're like, Hermione. And Hermione is actually who's been attacked, along with another 5th year student. Hermione's got a mirror with her, and McGonagall says, do you know what this is or what it's about? And they're like, no. So they go back, and they're like, well, we've got to go and speak to Hagrid tonight. This can't be happening. So they decide later on at night, put the cloak on. There's a complete lockdown, obviously. Everyone's being escorted to classes by teachers. But they decide to sneak down to Hagrid with the invisibility cloak. So Hagrid opens the hut to them, wants to take off the invisibility cloak with this giant crossbow, and he's about to attack someone or be prepared for someone to come in, and they're like, what the hell is that, Hagrid? And he's like, oh, it wasn't for you, we're expecting someone else. Never mind, come in, make some tea. But he's all over the place. He's like jittery and very un-Hagrid-like. He forgets to put tea bags in the tea. I remember that clearly in the book. He just puts water in, and then there's a bang at the door, and he's like, quick, under the cloak. They put the cloak back on and stand in the corner, and in comes Dumbledore, and the first introduction that we get to see of Cornelius Fudge, the Minister for Magic. And they're basically there to arrest Hagrid. So they agree to take Hagrid to Azkaban, and then Lucius Malfoy turns up, and he has got the other governors of the school, because he's one of the governors. He's got the other 11 governors of the school to all sign a petition saying that Dumbledore has to be removed. McGonagall comes acting headmaster, and Hagrid's like, get out of my house! And Lucius Malfoy says, trust me, I have no want to be here. Sorry, did you say this is a house? They remove Dumbledore as headmaster. He's like, Hagrid says, like, if you do, there'll be an attack a day, there'll be killings next. And they take Hagrid away. And as Hagrid's leaving, he leaves them the clue. He says, if anyone wanted to know anything, all you'd have to do is to follow the spiders. Yep, that'll set you right. At the door he goes, and and someone left to feed Fang while I'm gone. And then Dumbledore, as well, before he goes off with Lucius, has a little look right at Harry into distance, where he says, help will always be given to Hogwarts for those who need it. And they're like, right, we need to get into that forest, because the spiders are going into the forest, and Ron's like, but reluctantly agrees, because, you know, he wants to get his soul because of Hermione. They decide to go into the forest, where they are following these spiders, and they can't find anything in the dark, so they've just got Harry's little wand light. They're following the spiders around, it's pitch black, can't really see much. They end up down this slope, and these giant spiders grab Harry and Ron. They end up down there and end up talking to Aragog, who's the leader, who's the one that Hagrid had in the castle, and they all thought was the creature, but it's a lie. Hagrid never set anyone loose on any children. He never did anything. He went, and all he ever saw was Hagrid's cupboard where he was being kept, and the Forbidden Forest when he escaped. But Hagrid was innocent, and he got blamed for something he never did. So Aragog explains that it's all a setup, and Hagrid did not set him loose. He's not the monster. He's actually scared of the monster. They can't say what his name. they dread to say it, they don't speak about it, which then Harry says it's a bit like the Voldemort monster because people bear to speak its name. It's the he who must not be named monster, effectively. There's an altercation where he says they don't eat Hagrid, but they will eat fresh meat. So him and his wife Mosaic had 1,000,000,000 babies, and they were about to eat Harry and Ron, and in the car, knocks all the spiders everywhere. They get in, they run off, or drive off. Then the next day at breakfast, Ginny wants to talk to him about something, but Percy interrupts and scares her off, and they were like, Percy was going to tell something about Chamber of Secrets, she knows something, and he's like, no, she just knows a secret about me, but I'm going to talk about it. So it turns out that she's the one with the diary, and she opened the Chamber of Secrets. So McGonagall's voice says, she amplifies it and says, all students back to the house dormitories, all teachers to the teacher's lounge. Harry and Ron sneak into the teacher's lounge, and they hear McGonagall telling the rest of the teachers that Ginny and Weasley has been taken to the chamber, the school will probably close, and then Lockhart comes in and is sort of like, sorry, I snoozed off, I dozed off, what did I miss? And then they all sort of take turns in saying, oh, you said this, Gilderoy, you wanted to have a shot at the monster, you knew where he's been hiding all along, you said if you had a chance at him, he wouldn't have caused all this havoc, like, it's your chance to step up and be a big man. So he says, I'll go back to my office and get ready. Lies, he packs all his stuff up. Ron and Harry run down there later on to see him, and he's packing. They're like, where are you going? My sister's in the chamber. Oh yeah, sorry about that, but you know, he goes, what about all your stuff you've done in the books, like, you know, what all that? And he goes, well, dear boys, my books wouldn't have sold half as well if people didn't think I had done all that. And he's like, oh, you're a fraud, you've been taking credit for other people's stuff. He goes, is there anything you can do? And he goes, actually, I'm very good at memory charms. So, one more thing, turns around and tries to, you know, obliviate Harry and Ron, and Harry Expelliarmus his wand out, Ron catches it, and they're like, come on in, off you go. And they're going to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. So one of the things I didn't mention before was that when they were talking to spiders, Aragog tells them that the girl who died in the bathroom. Harry puts 2 and 2 together and works out that it's maybe Moaning Myrtle. And yeah, they go down into the chamber, they open it up, Harry speaks, parcel mouth, Lockhart gets pushed down first, Harry follows, Ron goes third. When they're down there, they find this massive giant snake skin, and Gilderoy pretends he's like fainting or is all like overcome. Ron goes check on him, and he steals Ron's wand off of him, and he does an obliviate memory charm, and it knocks half the ceiling down, because Ron's wand is obviously broken and misfiring, does all these horrible things like makes him eat slugs, and the obliviate charm works on Gilderoy instead, and there's a big brick wall between Harry and Ron and Gilderoy Lockhart. So Harry says, I'll go forward, you get these stones shifted so that we can come back. And they're both sort of like trying to be positive and hoping that Ginny isn't dead. Oh my god, I missed a massive thing out. They went to visit Hermione in the hospital before they went to see Myrtle, because they told McGonagall that they were going to see her when they were sneaking away, and that's how they got the information from. They found a piece of paper in Hermione's hand that had not seen before, and they knew that spiders flee before this beast. That it's the most dangerous thing. It's a snake, a basilisk, and she'd written at the bottom of the page that she ripped out the library book that it was the pipes that the snake was moving around in. So they knew what it was. They knew why Harry could hear it in the walls, because it was moving around in the piping in the walls. And so yeah, back to the chamber, and Harry goes on and he gets into the chamber and he finds Ginny on the floor in front of this big, massive Salazar Slytherin head statue, and Tom Riddle's there, who he's seen in the diary, and he's like, Tom, help me. We need to get Ginny out of here. The snake could come any second. And he has Harry's wand. He picks Harry's wand up off the floor because Harry's put it on the floor while he's checking on Ginny, make sure she's not dead, don't be dead. And he's like, don't worry, it won't come till it's called. And he's like, give me my wand back, Tom. And he's like, you won't be needing it. And he's like, what's going on, Tom? And then basically Tom Riddle tells him, with the wand, he writes his name, Tom Morvolo Riddle, and he rearranges it, and it spells out, I am Lord Voldemort. Damn, I did not see that coming. A lot of people said they did see it, and maybe I was just too engrossed in the story because I really enjoy the books. I really love Harry Potter series. Now when I look back at it, I'm like, obvious, like. So yeah, it turns out that he had set the basilisk free 50 years ago, framed Hagrid for it, and it killed a girl, Moaning Myrtle, and that now he had come back in the diary form and had sort of been like entrancing Ginny Weasley to do everything for him. She wrote the message on the wall. She also wrote another message on the wall, actually I forgot when she was taken, and it said, "Her bones will rest in the chamber forever." The snake gets called out, and then Fawkes turns up, the Phoenix, and drops a sorting hat to Harry. And Riddle sort of taunts him like, "Haha, Dumbledore sends you a Fawkes and a sorting hat." And the reason they turn up is because he says, before he calls the snake, that he's the greatest wizard of all time, blah, blah, blah. And Harry says, no, Dumbledore is the greatest wizard of all time. To which Tom Riddle, Lord Voldemort, retorts, "Haha, he's been driven from his castle by the mere memory of me." Boom, in comes Fawkes. Boom, out comes a snake. Harry thinks, crap, can't look at his eyes, covers his eyes, sort of tries to run away, feeling up the walls, where to hide, scampering along. And then he's like, he sort of squints his eyes, sort of like has a little brief look, and he sees Fawkes attacking the snake. The snake is now blind, so the snake can now not see him, can now not kill him instantly with a glare, but he's still got poisonous fangs, and he's still chasing Harry, and Fawkes flies off again and comes back to Harry with the sorting hat. And yeah, he pulls the sword out, the sword of Godric Gryffindor, out of the hat, and the snake goes for him, and he shoves it up through the hilt of the snake's mouth and kills the snake. It's dead, but as it drops to the floor, one of the poisonous fangs had gone into Harry's arm and pierced him and poisoned him, and then Harry's sort of on the floor, and he's, saying, "Thanks, Fawkes," and Fawkes comes and lays his head on the wound, and he's laying on his wound, and Tom Riddle's like, "Haha, you lose, you're dying. That stupid bird can't save you now." And when Dumbledore was in the office of Harry and the bird died and was reborn, he was telling him the properties of the Phoenix. That they are incredibly strong, incredibly loyal, love to sing, basically, and that their tears have healing powers. So Harry had forgotten this. Voldemort had sort of overlooked it. He knew it, but overlooked it, and he forgot until a bit later on. And suddenly Harry's sort of blurring out, these tears sort of start to work, and he sort of comes back to, and he's like, "Whoa, I'm not dying, what's going on?" And then he remembers, and Voldemort then remembers, and is like, "No, get away from him, you stupid bird!" And he goes to point the wand at the bird to get rid of it. It flies up in the air and avoids it, I think, and then he points his wand at Harry and goes, "Never mind, I'll sort of kill you myself." And then he gets the basilisk fang and he stabs it into the diary, puts a big hole in it. The diary starts to leak ink everywhere, all over Harry, and Riddle's gone. And just like that, Voldemort is defeated again by a wizard who has only had 2 years of schooling. He goes back through, Ginny wakes up and tries to tell him everything. He's like, "It's okay, the danger's gone." So Harry takes Ginny with Fawkes back to Harry, and they all go with Gilderoy Lockhart, who's lost his memory completely, and he's like, "Who am I? Where am I? What is going on?" They take Fawkes, they fly up the tube, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is almost like magic!" And they go upstairs, and obviously they end up telling the whole story. They go straight into McGonagall's office, because obviously Dumbledore's not meant to be there at this point. He's been suspended. Dumbledore's called back because of the Ginny getting taken into the chamber, and in the office of Professor McGonagall is Dumbledore and Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. They hug Ginny, then they hug Harry and Ron, and they tell the story of what happened. Then Ginny is taken by her parents to the hospital wing on Dumbledore's suggestion that they should do that. Then he writes a letter and asks Ron to take it and deliver it, I think. So once everyone's gone, it's just Harry and Dumbledore alone. Harry says, the Sorting Hat wanted to put me in Slytherin. I can speak Parseltongue the same as Voldemort, like, maybe I should have been in Slytherin. And Dumbledore goes, "Then why aren't you?" And he goes, "Because I asked the Sorting Hat not to." He goes, "Exactly, it is our choices, Harry, our choices that define us or show who we are. You chose to be in Gryffindor, not Slytherin, so the Sorting Hat put you in Gryffindor. You and Voldemort are alike, though, because when Voldemort cursed you that night, he transferred some of his powers to you. That's why he can speak Parseltongue, because Voldemort can speak Parseltongue. And so he has that part of dark magic Voldemort in him." So lastly, after that, they go and have this amazing massive feast, and everyone gets returned to normal, and they're in this big banquet feast. Hagrid then comes back. Hagrid gives Ron and Harry a big massive hug, knocks them flying, knocks their food, I think it's trife or something, off the plates, and knocks them flying. He's this big massive monster, "Roar, give me a hug," but in a friendly giant way. And they celebrate and end the school. However, Dobby gets set free! Yes! Before the end, And I'm going to end with this rather than the actual ending where they had the feast. Hagrid comes back and then they all go off to their summer holidays. And Harry gives him a piece of paper with his phone number on, splits in two, and goes, Ron, I told you what phone number was last year when he was asking me about the rubber duck in the summer. He knows what to do. Give me a call, Hermione. I'd use a phone, you're a muggle, give me a call. In the office, before they go back to the feast, before they go back to normality, where Lucius Malfoy comes into the office where Dumbledore and Harry are with Dobby. And Malfoy's like, you are back even though I told you were suspended. And Dumbledore informs him it's funny that all of the other governors said that they felt intimidated and that you would curse them if they didn't support you, Lucius. And he goes, preposterous, blah, 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 yeah, lies. And he goes, so who was the culprit? Who was it then? Who was it then? He goes, it was Lord Voldemort, acting through a diary, acting through another student. And then Harry accuses him of putting the diary in with Ginny Weasley's books at the very beginning when they were in Diagon Alley that day when he stole the books and he had that confrontation with Arthur Weasley and put it back in the book, and he goes, why don't you prove it? Then he leaves, kicks Dobby out the door, he's like, get out, Dobby! Then just socks. And then he kicks Dobby out and Harry's like, Dumbledore, can I borrow that book for a second, please? He takes off a slimy sock, gives it to the book and the sock to Malfoy. Malfoy throws the sock to Dobby, catches it, and he's like, goodbye, you peasant, or whatever he says, I can't remember. And then he goes to leave, and Dobby goes, Dobby is free. Master gave Dobby a sock. I love Dobby. Best character in the book. Absolutely fantastic. His heart was in the right place. And then Lucius tries to go at Harry, goes, you lost me my servant, with his little wand. Which is a really cool one, actually. He has it like on a walking stick, and he pulls it out. It's really one of the coolest, I think it's one of the coolest ones in Harry Potter. Dobby's like, you will not harm Harry Potter. And then Lucius goes flying, he sulks off, and Dobby's like, how can I ever thank you, Harry Potter? You are so amazing, blah, blah, blah. And Harry's like, just promise me you'll never try and save my life again. So that's the end of this book review. Let's do ratings. So, whoops, that's the wrong way around. Whoops, there we go. So the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, was Potterific. This one, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, I'm going to rate it as, this book was fantastic. Fantastic. So Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is officially fantastic. So don't forget to, I'm laughing at myself again, don't forget to comment down below your favourite Harry Potter character if you didn't do it before, and your favourite quote. And then another question for this video we'll set, what is your favourite location in Harry Potter? What is your favourite scene? Is it one of the classrooms? Is it Diagon Alley? Is it the Hogwarts Express? Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, give us a like, comment all the stuff down below, and yeah, that's it from me. Thank you very much again for watching. I really appreciate it. From your host of John Ski Writes John Ski, I'm out. Bye.